For years, Bill Gates warned of a new virus that would cripple the world. This year, his predictions came true.
The damage economically and health-wise has been far greater than I would have expected with a virus like this.
The tech mogul turned philanthropist set up the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation 20 years ago. It's been instrumental in the global fight to rid the world of some of its most dangerous infectious diseases, including polio and malaria. Now he's turning his attention to a global vaccination program to end the COVID-19 pandemic, which may be sooner than many realise.
Bill Gates, welcome to The Economist Asks. There is this big race around the world to develop a vaccine. You, the Gates Foundation, are playing a big role in this. Are we spending enough? And if not, why not?
Well, there are 6 efforts that are the furthest along, which will be in phase 3 trials by the end of September. I do think several of them will be successful, not just at the 50% level, but the 80-90% level in terms of blocking transmission and sickness. So, a little bit, the early ones may not be the best, and these characteristics are hard to measure, but I don't think that, we need more constructs here. I think we have enough to be successful. We do need to finance these constructs so that we get them out globally, because that's the only way the epidemic ends. We all need to spend billions to get the vaccine out to save the trillions that the economic damage is doing.
But why isn't that happening? I mean, you put it very well. Why aren't we spending the billions to save the trillions? When you talk to prime ministers, presidents, as I'm sure you do, why isn't this happening?
All the countries but the U.S. do need to think about why weren't they able to orchestrate early high-risk money. I mean, the UK did better over time. Germany did some things. But the U.S. is, thank goodness that BARDA, with all its imperfections, was there to move things ahead. This was a huge favor that was done for the entire world. And it's done, so we can globally take on the challenge. Many of these vaccines are fairly low cost to make. AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Novavax, Sanofi, all of those will be in the $2 to $3 marginal cost range. So you'll pay a somewhat higher price in rich and middle income to defer the fixed costs of the development. But for the very poorest countries where you just go for marginal costs, these vaccines will be quite cheap. So, 10 or 12 billion total to buy the vaccine for the developing world would almost certainly suffice. But without the U.S. taking its leadership role, as it's done in most global health things, it's been hard to get that together. So that's why I'm hoping the U.S. in its supplemental bill or somehow will step up and lead here, because that's still that's what would really get it. So we get that full 12 billion and we're not financially limited in dosing the world.
Give me a sense of what you think is realistic to be achieved in terms of coverage of a vaccine globally. I mean, the last vaccine was, it took 5 years to develop. So by that standard, we're already in warp speed.
Because you need billions of doses, will we be able to get those out and get the immunity in 2021, or will this stretch over into 2022? There's a lot of modeling nowadays that's saying that because of the infections where you do get immunity, and because of cross-protection from other vaccines and coronaviruses, if you add the vaccine in, even at like a 30 to 40% level, that may stop exponential spread. So that would be a very hopeful thing. Then you can imagine that by late 2021, you would have enough doses that you're almost done, but with just a little bit of spillover into 2022.
And that would be globally?
Late 2021,
globally.
Early 2020.
The rich countries, well, the U.S. has all this dedicated capacity, has the most across many manufacturers. I think by in 2021, it will bring the pandemic to an end.
you have to have a vaccine, but you also have to have people willing to be vaccinated. So how big a risk is there that even if we have a vaccine, people actually won't get vaccinated?
Well, it's partly why we need trusted people to, make sure they share their view of what is the science here, what do we really know, and so that people aren't just acting on rumors. Fortunately, this isn't measles. We don't need over 90% of people to take the vaccine. We think an additional, it could be as high as 60%, but somewhere between 30 to 60% of the population taking the vaccine, if it's on the high end of the effectiveness range, which 1 or 2 of the beginning ones won't, but some of the 6 will be, then you'll just stop the exponential spread. We can get herd immunity even if there are certain parts of the population that we're not, for medical reasons, going after. There'll be an age limit. We'll see, do they decide that pregnant women are in or not in, or people with various other conditions. The key thing is it's got to work for the elderly.
Let's just go back to the emerging world and the scale of damage that this pandemic is going to do. Do you think that the worst is over there, or is the worst still ahead?
No, the worst is still ahead because their dependence on certain commodity prices in some countries, on remittances in the case of other countries, on borrowing, which they were getting, a lot of these countries were getting up to pretty tough limits. These are not countries that they can just issue debt like mad without feeling inflationary pressures through the exchange rate. And so they live in the economic world where money is not free. Also, they don't have the systems to get that money out in an efficient way. Sadly, some of it will go out corruptly and, kind of give the whole program a bad name. And so basically, a lot of citizens of these countries are just left on their own with way less of a healthcare system, which has been incredibly overloaded, and less general government capability in education and justice and infrastructure investment, which everybody was looking forward to, now put off even more. And so sadly, like every bad event, the poorest in the US suffered more than the wealthy, and the poor countries suffered way, way more than the rich countries, particularly the poorest in the poor countries.
Yeah, I mean, that's potentially the greatest tragedy of this, that even as the need is greater, we're turning inward and the multilateralism is even less evident. Bill Gates, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I spoke with Bill Gates for more than 40 minutes about the global fight against COVID-19 and what that means for future crises, including climate change. If you'd like to see the full interview, click on the link. You'll just have to register with The Economist if you haven't already. Or you could subscribe to enjoy unlimited access to all of our journalism, including special online events. Thanks again for watching.